Good morning and welcome to the 13th meeting of the Criminal Justice Committee in 2025. We have apologies this morning from Pauline McNeill and Liam Kerr is joining us remotely. So our first item of business today is to consider whether to take item 4 on our work programme in private. Are we all agreed? Thank you. So our next main item of business today is to consider a negative instrument, which is the Police Pension Scheme Scotland Amendment Regulations 2025, SSI number 58 of 2025. And I refer members to paper 1, which sets out the purpose of the instrument, and I remind members of my declaration of interests. I am a former police officer. So can I ask whether members wish to make any recommendations in relation to this negative instrument? Otherwise, are we content that this comes into force? You content? Fulton McGregor.
Thank you, Convener. Just to give clarity that I'm content, but I did want to raise an issue here very briefly under this agenda item, and I have notified yourself and the clerks about it. I do accept, as I say, that it doesn't relate entirely to the SSI, but as an issue with pensions, with police pensions more generally. The issue relates to several constituents of mine who are retired police officers who have experienced lengthy delays of years, in some cases, in receiving their remedial service statement, RSS, and are still waiting. The amount owed is considerable, and as you can imagine, it's having a major impact on my constituents. And I'm also aware that other MSPs have had similar cases. The main issue is the length of time taken to pay out the monies due under the MacLeod remedy and constituents' concerns about communication around this delay. Now, the SPPA have advised us that they are working very hard to deliver a significant number of RSS by the statutory deadline and the bulk by 31st of May 2025, and say there are a number of more complex cases that will take longer. However, they say that most eligible police pensioners will receive a RSS by the 31st of July 2025. However, again, they reiterate that not every RSS can be delivered through this process, and more complex cases will necessarily take longer to complete. However, as I say, I've got a number of constituents that haven't had their pay, and although there is now a July deadline in place, they still remain concerned. I don't know if other members round the table are receiving similar queries, but I do wonder if the convener would be willing to write to Ivan McKee in his ministerial role about this issue, and with that coming from the committee, it might carry some more weight. I can provide further information to yourself and the clerks from the constituents who have been in touch if it's required, but I did want to keep today's intervention brief. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much for that sort of update. And I think this is an issue that actually the committee has looked at in the past with regard to I suppose, access to pensions by Police Scotland officers. So yes, I'm on the basis of the update that you've provided, I'm more than happy for the committee to write to Ivan McKee as Minister for Public Finance just on the issues that you've raised. So happy with that. Okay. Can I just, before we move on then, if members, just to confirm members are happy with the that the SSI comes into force, and can I perhaps just confirm that with Liam Kerr, who's joining us online? Okay, super.
That's fine, thank you.
Great, thank you very much indeed. Okay, thank you. So our next item is to consider a paper on the recommendations of the recent People's Panel on Drug Deaths and Drugs Harm. And I refer members to paper number 2. And as members will be aware, a People's Panel is a form of public engagement which brings together a randomly selected and broadly representative sample of the population to consider an issue, discuss it and make recommendations. Now, the Scottish Parliament held a People's Panel on tackling drug deaths and drug harm over 2 weekends in October and November 2024, and an additional 2 online sessions were held in November 2024. And a summary of the panel process and its outcomes is set out in paper 2. So I wonder if I can perhaps invite members to perhaps come in with any points or comments that they wish to make about the report that the People's Panel produced. So I'll just open it up to members if they want to bring anything in at all. No? Okay. So on behalf of all the members of the committee, can I firstly extend my thanks to all the participants who took part in the People's Panel and the parliamentary staff who organised it. I know it involved a great deal of planning and logistics, and having attended the panel on a couple of their sessions, it really was a great opportunity for the public to come together on an issue that we're very well aware of. And is the committee content to note that the recommendation for an inquiry into drug use in prisons is now being taken forward by us within the Criminal Justice Committee, and that we invite the Parliament's PAC team to let the participants know that this recommendation is now being implemented. Are committee members content with that? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, of course.
Thank you, Convener. I appreciate that the recommendation that applies to us in the instance that you've just set out, and I'm glad that we as a committee will undertake that inquiry. The People's Panel as a whole, as you've expressed, did a really good piece of work here, a really relevant piece of work to my constituency and many others across the country. And all of the recommendations are of interest and value. And I just wonder how we as a committee will be kept informed about progress on the other recommendations as well, given that they are all relevant in, either directly or indirectly to the work of our Criminal Justice Committee.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So obviously the cross-committee, which you're aware of, has, I suppose, to a certain extent, had oversight of the sort of journey of the People's Panel, and has already had the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care, who's currently covering the brief on drug policy into meetings of the cross-committee group, and we've taken evidence from him. Likewise, we have invited a group of panel members to contribute their reflections of the panel process to the cross-committee group. So it certainly would be the intention of the cross-committee group to continue tracking progress on the recommendations. As you'll know from the paper, the government has accepted or in principle or fully accepted I think more or less all the recommendations, with the exception of the recommendation that was made around the point that we're discussing today. So I'd say, yes, rest assured that there will be continued monitoring on the back of the report being published.
Great to just have clarity on that. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you. Okay. Sharon Dowie.
Hi. So just again, based on the report, on the Scottish Government response, it said that the majority of the recommendations are already being undertaken within the National Mission and cross-government programmes of work. Those that are not already being progressed excuse me, will be incorporated into considerations for the Scottish Government's post-National Mission planning. I was just wondering what they were, and I was also wondering if there is a list of the action points that have been taken for every single recommendation, because some of them are national missions, some of them are cross-government programmes of work, and some have still to be considered. So I think it would be easier to see what actions have been taken if we actually have a list of all actions by recommendation, if we could possibly get that.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that suggestion. And certainly the Cabinet Secretary has provided the cross-committee with an initial response, which I think formed part of our scrutiny at the cross-committee group. But yeah, I think it's probably a helpful suggestion to perhaps consolidate the government's position on the recommendation. So I'm happy for us to take that away as an action point, and we can come back with a written update on the on the recommendations aligned with the work that has already been completed or is already underway, that the Scottish Government has already updated on, and then some of the outstanding work that you've referenced. So happy to pull that sort of together for the committee.
On it as well when
Absolutely.
we would see the
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah, no, thank you for that helpful suggestion. Any other members want to come in at all? No. Is there any, we've obviously covered some further action points. Any other action points that members wish to suggest, or are we content with where we are? Okay, thank you very much. So in that case, we will move into private session. Thank you very much.